This election has been a very busy and dramatic election, to say the least. And one of the biggest topics in this election has been the return of Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma came back like the Undertaker. Ding, ding, woof. He was there, terrorizing Cyril Ramaphosa, terrorizing all of the people who thought that they had a chance. So we're going to have a big development 9 days before the election. And that development is that the Constitutional Court is going to issue its judgment on whether Jacob Zuma can actually go to Parliament. And that judgment is going to be on the 20th of May at 10 a.m. And you can watch it live. There's going to be a variety of channels which are going to be distributing that information. Now, what are the questions that the court will be making a determination on? Number one, on a proper interpretation of Section 47(1)(e), is Mr. Zuma disqualified from standing as a candidate for the National Assembly? Number two, what effect does a remission of sentence have for the purposes of Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution? Number three, is a conviction against which there is no appeal a conviction for the purposes of Section 47(1)(e)? Number four, did the Commission exceed its powers when it determined the eligibility of Mr. Zuma to stand as a candidate for the National Assembly? Number five, did the Commission demonstrate a reasonable apprehension of bias? Either way, Jacob Zuma, either way, Jacob Zuma is going to be on the ballot. Either way, Jacob Zuma has created a viable political vehicle with a massive following. We can't deny that MK is a player in this election in the same way that Cope was a player in the election, in the same way when the EFF came in 2014, it was a player in the election. That is incontrovertible at this point. The fact that they filled up Orlando Stadium in the way that they did, and the fact that they've been able to be a large part of the election discussion, only having come into play in December, you gotta factor that in. Of course, Jacob Zuma has been a politician within the South African ecosystem for a very long time, but making a new party and getting all of the infrastructure in place to actually be a viable and serious contender is something that's not easy. And they've done it. They've won three big court cases trying to prevent Mkhonto weSizwe from being an entity that exists. And, the media environment hasn't been friendly towards Mkhonto weSizwe. The media generally has been hostile to Jacob Zuma, and he's been able to pull things together. That's not to say anything about whether or not he was involved in state capture or anything that he has been accused of before. That's to say, politically, objectively, he has created a political vehicle. So we know because Simon Mabolo of the IEC did state that Jacob Zuma is the leader of the party. He's the registered leader at the IEC. Therefore, his face is on the ballot. So the question of whether he can go to Parliament is not necessarily going to affect all of the dynamics on the vote, right? That's number one. So let's do a scenario analysis right now. If Zuma wins, let's start there. If Zuma wins, this will be another serious blow to the ANC, because they're the ones who are viewed as trying to fight Zuma, block Zuma left, right, and center. And a lot of the litigation came directly from them. So it'll be a blow for them because it will give Zuma a win, a symbolic win, at a critical moment when the election is about to happen. So if he wins, it's definitely going to be a big moment in history in that regard, because it's going to put more wind under the sails or the wings rather of the Mkhonto weSizwe party, right? And Dalimpofu is going to have another big legal victory at a time when some people were saying that, hey, Dalimpofu is not that great, but he's already won 3, but if he gets 4, that will be even more. So that's on a win perspective. If Zuma loses, there are 2 things that can happen. Number one, he could accept, that's the best case scenario, right? The result. And there are a variety of scenarios under that particular option. Or number 2, he could reject. And there are 2 scenarios under that particular election, under that particular outcome. So if Zuma loses and accepts, if Mkhonto weSizwe loses and they accept, there could be a backlash vote. Zuma has a lot of support when people feel that he's being attacked, when people feel that he's been undermined, when people feel that his rights have been taken away. he does very well when there is sympathy and support for him. He does. When he's on the ropes, the people love him, they support him because they view the other people as coming for the underdog, the guy who cared about rural South Africa, the guy who actually helped lots of black people to be able to build wealth. So there could be a backlash vote, and that could hurt the ANC. Or there could be a loss of momentum. For some people, they may view that victory as being, something that really slows Zuma down. If he's not going to go to parliament, why would I vote for him? And the media is definitely going to cover him as a loser as soon as they announce that loss. So they're going to use this as an attack on Zuma because they've been trying to find ways to destroy his reputation, his name, for the last 20 years. And this is going to be something that they're going to pour gas on. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he did or did not do any of the things that he did. I'm just saying that the media is very selective in terms of who they villainize and who they attack. Millions of dollars were reportedly stolen from the Phala farm. We know that it's a fact because it was conceded in the Section 89 report, only that the amount was changed, the quantum, to about $600,000. But it was stolen from a farm. We know that it was not declared when it came into the country because SARS said they've got no record of that. So the media has been very soft on the issue of Phala farm, but they've been very aggressive on the other issues around Zuma, around the, Ngandla, etc. So selectivity is a thing in media, and the media has its biases and preferences, and we can't be dishonest about that. So there's a very real likelihood that the media will try, if they lose the case, to really try to pour water on the momentum of Mkhonto weSizwe. I mean, some voters may also be discouraged, but the media definitely will play a role, right? Number 3, Zuma will also play a game. He will say, I didn't really want to go. We'll see his proxies and all of the people discussing that, no, Zuma didn't really want to go to parliament. He's going to lead the party from outside parliament. He was just fighting for his rights because he's the first person to ever go to who's ever been imprisoned without a trial in the South African constitutional democratic framework. So they're still going to play the game of politics. The game of politics is not going to stop simply because, Jacob Zuma lost the particular case. They're going to try to spin it. We've seen politicians spin things left, right, and center. Will it work? It may work. So that is all under the acceptance framework, right? The other alternative that could happen is that they could reject it. And I'm not hoping for this. I'm not hoping for this because this election has been relatively, it's been a peaceful election season and everyone wants it to remain that way. Democracy does not do well when there is violence, disruption, instability, incoherence of any shape or form. All of the beauty of this election is that everything has been dealt with through institutions, through the IEC, through the courts, through social media debates and discussions. There's not been an instance in the main where there's been outbreaks of violence and any kind of mess. And that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants a clean and fair election. In the build-up to the election, in the counting and the announcements, that is what is democracy. That's the beauty of democracy. We're free to debate. We're free to speculate. We're free to pontificate. But we don't want to see the ugly head of violence. However, having said all of that, there's still, in a worst case scenario, a possibility of unrest. And I pray that that doesn't happen. There's also an issue that could happen around the loss of credibility for some institutions, because it is true that Janet Love, is an ANC member and was worked for the ANC for a very long time. It is true that some of the things that were done here were very irregular and seemed to be targeting Jacob Zuma more than upholding particular principles of law. But that loss of credibility is not going to be something that affects the courts tomorrow, but it's going to lead to more skepticism around the institutions, etc. So those are the scenarios if he accepts and if he rejects, right? We could see some versions of everything that I've just discussed. Either way, it's going to be a very big day. Either way, it's going to be a very big day. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to reread some of the cases. I'm going to reread some of my law textbooks. Some of you may not know this, but I actually studied law at Wits University. Wits, that one that Nkwebo Dlamini is always bragging about. Same one. I was there with him and others studying there. Some of my thoughts just around where Zuma has a chance and where I think he may actually emerge with a win. So going into this, I think he may win. He may not, but I think he may win, just to be clear. Right. So the one way I think he is not going to win is whether or not the commission exceeded its powers when they determined whether he's eligible to stand as a candidate. I think that the courts, both the electoral court and the constitutional court, did not even seem entertaining that argument. They deemed it very reasonable that that the IEC would determine whether you can actually run and stand, as opposed to having that being done by the National Assembly after the fact. So I think he's going to lose that one. Did the commission demonstrate a reasonable apprehension of bias? It's 50-50 there, because some of the statements that were made in the media and by Janet Love did seem to indicate that they had prejudged the matter, but Janet Love did recluse herself from the process. They asked for additional submissions in this question, so they cared about it a lot. And I think it's 50-50 here. If Zuma wins on this, then he still wins, because that poisons the chalice, so to speak. So here it's 50-50. On a proper interpretation of Section 47(1)(e), is Mr. Zuma disqualified from standing as a candidate from the National Assembly? Hmm. 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 I think he may lose that one. What effect does a remission of sentence have on a sentence for the purposes of Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution? Here, I think he has a 70% chance. Why? Because a remission is a reduction. That is the English definition. So I think all of the arguments around reduction, reducing the sentence and not maintaining it where it was, I think they're compelling. And I think it will be difficult, although it's still possible for the court to say, no, it doesn't. You're still going to be considered as being 15 months, even though you've been reduced to 3 months. And I think because it was a law of general application that Mr. Zuma benefited from, and other people in future may benefit from the same thing, it's good to have legal certainty and to provide that. So I think here he's got a little bit of a chance. Now, where I think he's got maybe an 80% chance is a conviction against which there is no appeal, a conviction for the purposes of Section 47(1)(e). I think he's got a good chance. He's got a healthy chance here, 80% chance, right? Because you do need to have appeal. That right in Section 35 is a very important right. And to take it away and not give any mechanism in the instance where you go to the Constitutional Court as a court of first instance and a court which exercises penal powers and takes away your right to appeal, and then may provisionally take away your right to become a political candidate for a party and actually go and represent the interests of the people in parliament. I don't think that the court is going to be very comfortable going that way. So I think it's an 80% chance for him in that respect. But he could still lose, right? So we're going to see what the court says. Is he going to lose on all 5? He may, but I don't think so. I think he's got 20% chance minimum to come out of this. But we've already discussed all the scenarios. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you think he's got a chance? Do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's going to emerge from the fire of this crucible even stronger, even more determined? And do you think that this is going to excite the base or demoralize the base one way or another? So come tomorrow, as soon as the judgment is over, I'm going to be reacting, giving another video, talking about all of the reasoning of the court and everything that they said. It's going to be a big day in the election. It's going to be a big day for democracy and also for the Constitutional Court and the legal system of South Africa. So, yay, this election, they were saying 2024 is 1994. We're seeing it, huh? We're seeing it. We're seeing it. It's happening. 9 more days. Yo, slit. Till the next one.